So we've decided that we're going to have Nicholas Gibbs on every day. No, just kidding. Even though some of you might really like that. Nicholas, I had a couple of meals in Kauai with somebody who says that you are his favorite. So
I think he speaks for all of your audience.
that's probably exactly right.
That poor guy or girl.
I don't, you and I have been playing the market for a very long time, and there are days like this. There are days like this that I don't know how to explain. So that's why I'm going to let you explain because it's like, okay, when I did my morning show, I said it looked to me like the market was exhausted because it was basically a good news day. The news has just gotten better all day. Everything about the news has been good all day. Yeah, you could look at oil prices and you could look at the some of the riots around the country or something, but basically the financial news was outstanding all day. We'll talk about some of it, but the market could not get a grip. And Tesla's news was particularly huge, as you and I talked about last night, and we barely managed to get into the green at the very last second to save a red day. So talk to me, Mr. Market Analyst.
Um, I I think it's nothing. To be honest, I think it's just the market's digesting. There's a lot of news that came out today. We got when's the next Fed meeting? Next week.
Yeah.
Uh, we got Fed meeting coming up after today's CPI. It's more people now. Besant is calling essentially for a rate cut. Um, so we'll see what happens there. But I think the market's just kind of digesting a lot of news. China news came out today. Obviously, we've got more Tesla good news coming out, more sightings of the robo taxi driving around. Um, and it's also, it's summer. So these days are expected in the summer. But I will say I'm maybe not hopeful for you with all-time highs in the next 13 days, but I I do think we're starting to become more constructive to get to all-time highs by the end of the year for sure.
All right. Well, I'm gonna let you be here for the announcement. I don't know if this is going to work or not. I'm putting out a call to all of the tech analysts, all the chartists that do Tesla on X, on YouTube, wherever they might be. I'm putting out a call. I just did this on X a little while ago, and I'm going to try to pull together 5 or 10 of the best Tesla chartists and do a morning show every day around 9:30 California time, just like a 15-minute quick, nothing to do with my analysis because I'm not I don't know anything about it, but their analysis, just quick, boom, boom, boom. This is what this guy says, this is what this guy says, and just go down the line. So if you were reporting today on the charts, with or without, if you want to pull them up, fine. If you can do it without pulling them up, fine. I mean, I'll try to make it available. Sometimes I'm not very good at this stuff. What did I just do? Ah,
You're,
I just shared, huh?
yep.
That's
You're,
not what I wanted to do. I was going to put you available to share. Anyway, what would you
yeah.
say from a chart standpoint?
Well, why don't we dive into the charts?
Okay.
Let's see. Let me know if you can see my screen.
Yep.
You were screen sharing. Okay, perfect. So, from my point of view, I like to zoom kind of out. So, if I go out to let's go in for it. Let's do over the last 1 year. Look familiar to everybody? It should. um, there's two things I'll look at. So, one, I like the bigger time frames because I think they are less susceptible to noise. So
Mm.
they tend to be more signal. And there's this tool called a Fibonacci retracement, or a retracement and extension. So a retracement is essentially when we've hit a high and you're wondering like how low is it going to go, or just potential levels. An extension, when you draw an extension, you do a recent low. So you can see right here, this is the recent low to the recent swing high back to the recent low.
Mhm.
And this shows you kind of where you can expect based on Fibonacci number sequencing. And so this is interesting because it shows that, we could go up to 427, 522. There's actually another level up here as well. So this shows pretty constructive. If I delete this, you can also see that we are having lower lows and higher highs, which
Mhm.
again is what you want to see, right? You can see over here when we had the big run, we had lower lows, lower lows, lower lows, and higher highs, higher highs, higher highs, higher highs. It's
Okay.
when you have a lower high and a lower low that you don't want, because that's not constructive. So right
Right.
now we're pretty constructive. And this is actually good, this recent pullback we had, because you can see that it essentially touched what was previously around our high and we bounced off of it. So
Right.
now if we reject around this level 366 again, that wouldn't be good for the stock. Assuming that you're into this and this is your thing. The other thing that I'll look at is the MACD. So the MACD is down here. And so again, I like to look at this at a longer time frame. So I look at it from a weekly perspective. And if you look at it from the weekly perspective, if I zoom in here, the last time the MACD flipped from red to green was May 17, 2024.
Mm.
Had you been in the stock May 17, 2024 and rode it all the way up and gotten out right when it flipped to red, that would have been February 7th.
Mm.
So that would have been pretty good timing. Would you have hit the top? No. You wouldn't have gotten out at the top, but you would have avoided all of the April chaos, all of the Elon tweet chaos. Recently, we just flipped green again. This was on May 23rd. I guess you wouldn't have avoided Elon's tweet, but this was May 23rd. So this is pretty constructive. And again, this is on a weekly time frame, so this tends to be more signal than
Mhm.
noise, and you can kind of see in general. Like here, this was, what was this? We flipped on August of 2023, and we kind of just went all down, not too crazy, and then we flipped again May of 2024, which we talked about a second ago. You can go back, you can go study this on your own if you want, but you can see that's pretty constructive as potential signal for where we're going. So the extensions show that we have a room to go up. The extensions say that this weekly has now turned from red to green, which is again constructive.
Mhm.
And we know that we have a lot of good news at our backs with robotaxi and all that. So right now, from that perspective, is why I feel like we're in a good place at the moment. Fundamentals ugly for Tesla, but that's been the case for the last year plus. So clearly, the market hasn't been measuring Tesla based on its fundamentals. We know that. So I don't think that's as big of a input as needed. And if anything, this next quarter, I think I talked about this last night, but this next quarter, it's the narrative changes. Up to this point, we've had these quarters where the fundamentals weren't great, but we've had a nice story from Elon team to paint on what the future looks like. Well, this will be the first quarter where it's no longer a story, it's actually happening. And what they inform us of is the ramp of what's happening rather than this potential robotaxi that will one day happen and go out. No, it's actually happening. It's actually out there. The question is no longer is will it happen? It's how will it scale? And that's very paradigm shifting. And so I still think the fundamentals will become a secondary story. The new story is this new growth wave when it comes to FSD and autonomy. And like I said, the stock looks pretty constructive right now. If we reject at 366, that won't be good, but those are key levels to keep an eye out for. If we pass 366, I think we start running pretty quickly. So that's kind of my take. Assuming you're looking at it from this domain, this one myopic lens of the charts.
So when you're doing that kind of an analysis and you have a day like today, where probably, well, we actually had 2 days like that this week. Everybody was convinced that the stock was going to tank on Monday morning. And of course, we got the opposite. And then everybody, I think if you'd asked anybody last night what they thought the stock would do today, they probably thought it would be up, well, it was up all night and most of the day, but probably even more than it was up. So when you're just doing a technical analysis, you have days like this that seem counterintuitive. How do you think about those?
Well, that's the nice thing if you look at the charts to zoom out to bigger time frames, because it kind of makes all of that noise kind of washes out, right? It becomes less of a distraction. But generally, I would say doing the opposite of what the market is doing in the short term is the right move, generally.
We know this.
So I know, yeah. So I don't know. I don't think much of it. I think a lot of people are still kind of posturing. I think people are still like, we got the robo taxi information last night when you and I were on.
Right.
That might have been perceived as bad news for algorithms out there, right? Like, oh, it got delayed. Is it going to get delayed again? When can people actually start using it? So it's hard to know what's what. But in my experience with Tesla, it's not a gigafactory opening. It's not a vehicle launching. Like, these things never seem to really move the stock. It's just like one day, boom, it's going. Just why? I don't know. It just is. If you think about it, I was talking about this with Herbert. Trump won, and all of a sudden, the whole market started ripping, right?
Yeah.
So Tesla is essentially ripping off of nothing, really, right? Like, there's nothing fundamental to the company that changed.
Right.
And then we sell off. And we sold off. Again, nothing fundamental to the company. You could argue that Tesla was running so much because of the hopes and aspirations of a federal guidelines and regulation for autonomy. And I think that's the narrative a lot of people were running with, is that, well, now with the friendly administration, all that should be streamlined. But since we've been coming down, the constructive things we've had, which was Secretary of Transportation going there and essentially saying that they're going to make a federal regulation. Well, that didn't move the stock, or at least if the reason stock ran up after the election was because of this to 488, well, we haven't seen that here, and we are even closer to having federal regulation than we ever have been. We have robotaxi sighting, or autonomous vehicles sighting in Austin. Yeah, that gave stock a little bit of a bump, but not the 488. And now we have actual dates for when in June. Clearly, that hasn't moved it either. So the things that are actually constructive and fundamental to Tesla haven't moved it. It's been, hey, Trump got elected. Maybe it's a friendly administration. Oh no, Elon and Trump are fighting. Right? So it's like the fundamental things haven't been what moves it. So I just think it's going to take time, digestion.
Okay.
Market will do what market does, and there's nothing you can do other than just look at how things are flowing. It's ebb and flow, and that's why I like looking at the MACD from a weekly perspective. So it tells me what I need to know. People are in, people are buying. Normally, once the weekly goes from red to green, that's pretty bullish.
So what about the macro? So do you pay attention to the macro? Are you interested in the overall bearishness, bullishness of the market itself, how the market is trending? And if that is of interest to you, what are you looking at now? Tom Lee says he thinks we'll be at 6,600 on the S&P by the end of the year. I think that's low. Other people are talking about 6,500, 6,400 by the end of the year. I don't know why. I can't figure out why the S&P wouldn't be at 6,600 by the end of the third quarter, but okay. So go ahead. What are you thinking about the macro?
Well, I think that I look at the macro. So I'm not sure why you asked that.
I'm just running an interview here, okay?
Um, yeah, I think I definitely looked at macro. Like, I'm not like a technician or anything like that. I look at everything. You take all the inputs and then you derive your point of view. Um, I think the economy is extremely healthy, but we got three issues. We got a housing issue, housing affordability issue. We've got an interest rate issue, which they're tied, and we've got a debt bond issue. Again, all three of these are linked. So, not sure how this will all play out. I think we need to lower rates. The bond market says we don't need to lower rates. I think home prices are falling. I know home prices are falling. 27 out of 50 states have lower prices now than they did a year ago, which is good and bad, right? Um, and we're just in this weird spot because even if you lower interest rates, that will obviously cause more demand for housing, which is good. But at the same time, there's a good chance that that would cause housing to increase, and then we're kind of right where we were. And then without interest rates being lowered, you run into the issue of high debt payments on our loans, on our debt, and it keeps people from really investing and taking more risk. And cheap money is awesome. Cheap money allows you to do more things than what you would. And I think the best way to solve that, which I think would be amazing, and I don't think they would do it, but if they allowed people to keep their rates. So, for example, if I have a 3% rate on this house and I want to go buy another house, can I take that rate with me? Or can I sell this house to someone else, keep my rate on the amount of debt I have left, and then create another loan for the rest of the delta of whatever I want to buy, and that will be at a 6% rate or whatever the rates are. That, I think, would add some injection. Another idea would be, if this house at a 3% rate, can I sell this house plus that rate to a potential buyer? I think that would spur demand like crazy. So I think there's ways around this. And then what that would do is I think that would blunt the impacts of rates coming down from the Fed. Because now if you have like this other way to get lower rates, it kind of it keeps people from necessarily starting to raise their prices and eating all of those rate cuts so that things are essentially still neutral. I don't know. These are just some thoughts I've had in my head lately.
Yeah.
What do you think?
The second kind used to be available back in the
Oh,
day.
really?
Yes. When the rates were really high, they were perfectly happy to have you pass on your rate. So, it was not every single mortgage had it, but most mortgages did have the transferability to a new buyer in there. But those went away when the rates got down to like nothing, because then the mortgage lenders are obviously thinking, hey, we don't want them to pass on that rate in the future.
Yeah.
So I would have thought maybe there could have been a clause where you could pay an extra point or something in order to get that. But anyway, that hasn't been done. There's a very few mortgages out there right now that do offer that. Yeah, I think your ideas are fine and great. I do think that the biggest problem is just supply. We've talked about that before. The amount of supply that's available now, even with pricing, even with this slowdown, is still crazy, crazy low historically. And you just got to have a lot more supply of the product that people want to buy. And sometimes you got the right supply, and sometimes you got enough supply, but it's not what they want to buy. And then other times it goes the reverse. You've got what they want to buy, but you don't have any of it, which is where we've been basically for about 6 years.
So just looking at it over the last 12 months, we have a 23% year over year increase in housing supply.
Right. Yeah.
So
Gets
I
it,
hear what you're saying.
which it gets us back to historically extremely low instead of extremely, extremely low.
Well, I don't know. What is the historical normal?
So historical normal is about 7 months. So
Okay,
7
so
months
we're
is considered an average kind of year, but it's not unusual in rough markets to be at a year and a half when things are really bad out there. So, in historically bad markets, you might not get any offer at all for the first, 90 days. Now, in these markets we've been in for the last few years, you're getting 2 and 3 offers the first day. I mean, it's
Mhm.
such a difference in kind of the markets as they've been for this last really more than 6 years. It's almost really 10 years at this point.
Yeah. So I'm looking at it right now. You're correct. For existing homes,
Yes,
we're at about 4 to 4.4 months of supply.
right,
For new construction, we're at 8.1 months.
right.
So that's really interesting.
Yeah, the new construction, of course, that's really heavily up to the contractors or the
Hmm.
you know the sellers. They have all kinds of levers they can pull, and they're willing to allow things. They kind of know like what time of year when they really have to finally pull some of those levers, like reducing the mortgage rates or whatever.
Yeah.
But we'll see what happens over the next little while. All right. So in terms of the technicals, though, on the S&P right now, how are you looking at the technicals on the S&P?
I don't actually look at it.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. Okay. All right. That's fine.
So
That's good.
yeah.
Yeah. I'm just trying
I
to, yeah.
the only thing I'll look at technicals for is just Tesla. That's
Yeah.
pretty much it.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right. So let's take a look at some of those news things today and get your thoughts. We have peace, apparently, between the two most powerful men on earth. They even spoke on the phone. Elon picked up the phone and called the president. The president was glad that he did. Said that there's no reason why they can't be buds. So we've gotten past apparently the worst of it. The president's overnight ratings are at 55%, which is the highest since the inauguration. And his weekly ratings are now at 52%, which is also the highest since inauguration. Now, that's all Rasmussen, which is the only legit pollster out there. We got the China-US agreeing on trade today. It has to be finalized. We had the inflation results, which were amazing. Um, uh, give me your snap opinion. Oh, and we have of course, the riots apparently being calmed somewhat. Give me your snap analysis of President Trump in June of 2025.
Like a grade wise, I would say B minus.
B minus. You're tough. Wow. So what are you downgrading him on?
Okay. We still don't have any of the Epstein files released.
Okay.
We still, I have to grade him based on the things he said.
Okay.
We still have conflicts with Russia, Ukraine. We still have conflicts in Gaza, Israel.
Mhm.
And he said that he would have this resolved in day one, if not before he even takes office, which he did. He did make a lot of progress to get hostages let go and all that. But again, I didn't set those timelines. He said that. So, I think looking back, like, I mean, I'll be honest, like, I thought if anyone can do that, it's probably him.
Yeah, right.
So, but he hasn't. Doesn't mean he won't. I think he probably will help get this to. I definitely think it'll happen, but it hasn't happened yet. So I think you do get dinged for that, especially since you said you would do something. Um, the Epstein files, we talked about that. I think the whole Doge thing, I think, has been the biggest thing that has kind of not been great, to be
Oh,
honest. Um, I don't think that. I think he got I think he has a lot of people whispering in his ears, and I don't I don't know what I don't know. I don't know what limitations he has and what, you know, cards he has that he has to play, he has to make best of what he has. I only know what we all know, but I imagine there's a lot more things behind the scenes we don't see. But I can only, again, if I'm going to grade someone, I can only grade based on what I know. And in my opinion, this is a once in a lifetime opportunity where you have certain people in place. You're essentially a one-term president here. You don't have to worry about re-election. It's your chance to force real change. And I would have loved to see certain things codified. I would love to. I honestly, I think they should have broken up the bill instead of trying to do everything in one shot. Normally, in general, like any projects I've ever worked on, you want to break things up into kind of sprints. It allows you to get good dopamine hits, allows you to get momentum, gets people encouraged. But if you risk it all on just this one big thing, too many moving parts, it gets complicated. You get too many chefs in the kitchen. And I think that's what we have right now. You have too many chefs in the kitchen. Like, obviously, Trump's a chef, but he's got sous chefs. And he's got Besson as a sous chef. He had Elon as a sous chef. He's got Navarro. He's got Lutnick, right? He probably has other people. There's too many dancing around. And he has to deal with all of Congress. I think there's so much going on that it's getting messy. And so that's why I would say B minus. It's just and that doesn't mean he can't get his grade point average up. Right? We'll see what happens. It's a long 4 years. It's a long year.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens at the end of the year. For all we know, at the end of the year, both wars might be over, and we might have a nice budget. We might have codified a lot of the Doge cuts. We'll see. And then, lastly, I would say that really dings him. And remember, I'm grading him. I'm not grading Elon.
Right. Mm-hmm.
He said some flat out lies. And I think he needs to understand while he is the president, he can quickly lose power if someone like Elon were to truly turn on him. It's just a fact.
Right.
If you don't have SpaceX, then you're at a military disadvantage, period. If you turn against Elon or Elon turns against you, all Elon has to do is convince one or two people in Congress, hey, I'll float your next election.
Yeah.
Don't vote on this.
Yeah.
And that's it. He's a lame duck president. It's over. Obviously, Trump has things he can do back on Elon,
Sure.
but then the lies that he said about Elon was upset because of the EV tax credit, we took that away. It's like you are lying to the wrong crowds because there are way more of us than there are people there's more. No one has more independent journalists than Elon Musk.
Right. It's 100%.
And they will right any wrongs quicker than you can finish any half truths that you put out there. So that one definitely rubbed me the wrong way. Now, I will say, I think either Trump was quick to realize that he doesn't want to have this fight and he doesn't want to become a lame duck president. But either way, he was I would say, first one to stop escalating. It wasn't Elon. Elon was the first to offer an olive branch. Publicly, at least. That's what we know.
Yep.
And so I'll give him credit for being the one to like after the whole Epstein list thing.
Right.
Trump didn't ratchet up.
Right.
He could have, but he's like, all right, like, what are we doing here? So yeah, anyway, so that's why I'd say like B minus, which is
okay. All right. So
I think still a good grade.
Yeah. So I have this sense that the biggest mistake was Besant and Musk not being on the same page 6 months ago. So you can see that the Besant Musk thing got heated, maybe even to the point of some kind of physical alteration, although Trump denies it ever took place. Bessent and Trump have Bessent and Musk haven't weighed in as to whether there was a physical altercation or not. But we know that there was some real tension between those two. And I think that there was more tension with Musk and Bessent than there was even with Musk and Congress. Because Bessent was very, very clear in the beginning of when he first came out. We saw those interviews, and he was so clear about his three-legged stool. He was so clear about taking 3 years to get there. And I thought it was measured and clever. On the other side of the coin, I agree with you that there was this, desire in my heart to see Musk go in there and be able to just actually clean out that, $1 trillion worth of nonsense and get us on a path quickly to something more realistic. But I think those two were, somebody needed to get in between those two people and make sure that they both understood the other one and whether they compromised or whether they at least agreed to disagree or however it was going to be, so that those two were on the kind of a similar path as opposed to being so completely diametrically opposed. Because then the Congress can say, look, Bessent said.
Yeah, if we didn't have a president in Argentina, I would agree with you. But Argentina kind of set the precedence that no, this can be done and it can be good for your country quickly. And I think when we saw that happen in Argentina, it just showed. And look, we saw it at Twitter when Elon went in there, and it worked. But then the argument's like, okay, well, that's a company, it's not a country. But then we saw what Milei did in Argentina, and it worked. And I think if they would have let Elon go in there and do his thing, I think it would have worked. But obviously, not everybody's going to be the way Elon is, right? He's like, look, if we're going to be disruptive, let's be disruptive and let's do it fast and let's get it done with. And the sooner we rip this Band-Aid off, the sooner we can start recovering. Instead, I think Bessent and others are kind of coddling a little bit. And I'm more of the other side. I'm like, let's just do it. Rip it off. Let's get it over with.
All right, so let's look at the positive side of what's come out of all of that. So we got those inflation numbers again this morning. You and I talked about it last night. I thought if the inflation numbers came in as a beat, which they did on 3 out of the 4 metrics, I mean, I don't know how you do better than that. So the inflation numbers came in very, very strong. And if you dig into the inflation numbers, there's no place for them to go back up again. The housing numbers are going to come down, as you just pointed out. We're 6 months behind on the housing numbers. So the next 6 months, housing is just going to be coming down, 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 down. And that's 40% of the CPI. So I don't see there's a little bit of increase in oil prices right now, which might percolate into gasoline prices, but overall, I don't see it popping up anytime soon. So that's a really, really strong benefit so far from the Trump administration. And then I'll just go a little long here. The deficit numbers came in today, 316,000 for the month. I'm 7,000. 316 billion for the month of May compared to 347 billion last year. So a huge decrease in the deficit. And then the increase, I mean, the benefit came in on the revenue side. So the outlays were up 1.6%, but the revenues were increasing by 10%. Now that's February to May. You barely can count February with regard to Trump because he'd only been in office for a few days. But if you take that whole period, February to May, it's still a great, great result. So you got the inflation result is good. You've got the deficit numbers are good. And the reporting also was this morning that the amount we're paying on interest is down. So what are your thoughts about all that?
No, that's good. it's in the right direction. How does that include tariffs?
Yes, it included tariffs.
Okay. So that's a big reason, right?
A big piece, especially in the month of May in particular, it was 23 billion, and compared to maybe 9 billion the prior year.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, no, I mean, I agree with you. The data, honestly, I thought best case scenario was just going to be we come in at expectations. I was shocked that we came in cooler. When Rick Santelli said it this morning, I was like, whoa, did not see that coming. So I was actually surprised that the market didn't react more strongly to that, to be honest.
Yeah.
Um, that one was baffling to me. It almost makes me wonder if the market is starting to think, okay, what's up with the Fed? uh, but the bond market's not. Again, the bond market is saying no rate cut
It came down
is needed.
Yeah, it came down 6 basis points last time I checked.
No.
So yeah, still
And
way up there.
it right now it looks like there's let me see, for June. Yeah, it looks like there's no rate cuts right now.
Yeah,
Is
0% think there'll be a rate cut.
it's at 99.8% of zero.
Yeah,
So
pretty strong. Now, there's always that surprise because I mean, you and I, I'm sure would be in agreement that he should. It would be good for everybody if he did. I think it would set the right tone. Um, I don't care whether or not. I don't think it'll stimulate the economy. So that's not why I'm asking for it. It's more like a signal to the economy, a signal to the bond market that it's okay. Let's relax a little.
yeah. Now July is also no rate cuts expected,
Right.
but September
Yes.
it looks like there's a 25 basis point, 60% chance.
Yep. That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, it's what I'm seeing.
That's what you're seeing. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. I I don't know how much I trust these. It'll be interesting to see the next um oh my god, what's it called?
Commentary next week, the press conference after.
The economic forecast
Oh,
projection. I forget what it stands for. Anyways, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see the forecast that they have when that comes up. I think we'll get a new one in July.
okay. All right.
So
So we had a couple of folks putting out some notes today. We had Piper Sandler, Alexander Potter. He said an overweight rating, a $400 price target on Tesla. That's where he's been. He says driverless Teslas seen in Austin just as car prices start rising. So he thought that combination was interesting, that would be good for the robotaxi business if the prices went up. I thought that was an unusual way to see it. I hadn't thought of that. He says driverless Teslas have been spotted on the streets of Austin. These may seem like unrelated data points, but they're not. A key component of our Tesla thesis has officially begun playing out. We expect the stock to sustain upward momentum in the coming weeks as more information is disclosed, pending any high-profile robotaxi accidents, which would likely be met with violent downside. So I certainly agree with the fact that if there's any significant problems, maybe not one accident, but any significant, like two or three, that would be a real problem. I think you and I might have talked about it before. I have this theory that there'll be kind of a pull, kind of an ongoing pull over the next 10, 12 weeks as we just keep getting data. Week after week after week, every couple of weeks, we're getting data about robotaxis. I think that'll be kind of, as long as it's positive, it'll just be kind of an ongoing kind of catalyst to the stock price.
yeah, I kind of I kind of agree with that. I think I think for the rest of the year, maybe a little noise around earnings, but we'll kind of chug higher. But I do think that there's going to be a point where it'll probably be when we get to like 360 again. I think like 360 to like 380, 400. I think we're gonna blast through that.
Okay. Yeah. So it just needs to happen between now and the 24th. Yeah. So then on CNBC, Jeff Kilberg said, I think it continues to be a buy, meaning Tesla. If you're short, you're really going to be in trouble. He says, I just bought a 2026 Model Y. I used FSD for 350 miles and I was blown away. I had a lot of anxiety doing it, but after about 5 minutes, I was comfortable. I am a combustion engine guy, but now I'm a Tesla owner. He has a 350, he believes it's going to go to 350 in the very, very short term with $400 easily in view after that.
Yeah, pretty much what I just said.
Pretty much what you just said. So you and Jeff are on the same, you're on this.
Yeah, it's not controversial at all. You break 360, 368, we are moving higher. It's going to be quick. Like you can just see on the volume profiles, there's no friction. So
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so we talked a little bit about Model Q last night. I mean, we're supposed to hear about that in the next 2 weeks also, or 2.5.
I know,
And so
right? Yeah, that's an interesting one
that's an
that could boost us. That
yeah,
could save you.
that could be a help to get me to my number. Which of course, I knew that all along, right? No, I'm just kidding. So there's the Model Q, and then of course there's the negative number we talked about last night, which would be the July 2nd number. However, there could be some good news on the July 2nd number too. There could be high deployments of the mega packs, so that could be offsetting.
Yeah, but I don't think Wall Street ever cares about that. I kind of think that the new vehicles, I don't think that they would announce that until after the end of quarter,
Oh,
just so they don't have to. They probably they want to sell every vehicle they can.
I see.
But do you think those are going to start here soon, or do you think it
Well,
gets delayed?
there's been, we've only been talking about the next model for about, I don't know, I feel like it's been 12 years. But anyway, on this Model Q, most people, I think, in our community have said they think it'll be that they'll have a few thousand, sitting in the garage ready to go the day that they announce it because they don't want to Osborne it all in this environment. So I don't know. It's okay with me if that's what they've done. I don't have a clue at this point. How I would do things and how Elon does things are often very, very different when it comes to product introductions. I've watched how Steve Jobs did things. Nobody can equal Steve Jobs, but I feel like nobody's even really trying, and certainly not Tesla.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. Yeah, it'll be interesting. It's it's been so quiet. We haven't seen much about it. So, but
Yes.
but I actually think that's a good thing. I think it's a good thing that everyone's focused on robo taxis.
Yeah. Well, and Elon reiterated his statement. He's talking about millions next year. So, of course, that's going to mean, I mean, the only way you get to a million is you've got to have, it's got to be the Airbnb version. I mean, sure, he could put out a million Model 3s, Model Ys in his own fleet, plus some of the new Cybercabs. But truly, to have a million vehicles by the end of next year, it's got to be the Airbnb version.
Yeah, and I think that's what you would prefer, anyways.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, Tesla wants to have its own fleet, right? Because it's gonna be high margin for them, sure. But there's only so much Tesla can manage on their own, right? Then eventually you need partners to work with. And that's where I think having other people add their vehicles is a nice medium because people purchase the car, then they have to purchase the software, and then Tesla gets a cut out of everything. And Tesla never has to worry about the maintenance. They never have to worry about the charging. They never have to worry about the cleaning. there's a lot of things that Tesla doesn't have to worry about, and all they get is essentially a royalty, a high fat premium of a royalty.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to be said for that. And then of course, like last night, we already spent a lot of time talking about it. Also, the possibility of somebody doing a license between now and the end of the year would be another big plum. So last night you said you thought we'd be at 500 by the end of the year, and you said, so Randy, we're not that far off. But I thought I'd come back to that number because I'm 1,000 by the end of the year, right?
If that happens, I'm gonna be a very rich man.
Well, okay.
I hope your 1,000 is better than your all-time highs in the next 14 days.
Oh, we'll see. We'll see. We'll see. I certainly hit it out of the park earlier this year.
Hey, listen, if it happens, I'm here for you to sit here. Randy was right. Randy was right. All hail Randy. All praise Randy. I'm here. I hope you're right.
Well, this time it's really my all-time high is extremely visible. So I don't think anybody will forget it either way. I'll be hearing about it for a long time. But the 1,000 by the end of the year, by the way, Brian Wong is way above me at 1,500. My 1,000 by the end of the year, just as a matter of people, taking it and doing the spreadsheet on Robotaxi by that time. Because if we are in 3 cities by the end of the year, it'll be pretty easy to start spreading it out. And then in addition to that, looking past Robotaxi to Optimus, at that point, starting to put something significant in for Optimus, as there will be 1,000 or thousands working in the factory, and maybe we'll get some kind of reveal by the end of the year. But even without the reveal, I think if we don't have a reveal, we're going to be at or around 1,000. If we get a reveal before the end of the year with pricing, we could go beyond 1,000.
For Optimus?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll be interesting.
Yeah, I think it's because the big question on Optimus is the pricing. We don't know whether it's going to be my number is now 1,200 a month. I think that they should charge 1,200 a month. Somebody else said that they should have an auction and sell to the highest bidders until they run out. Somebody else, I think I agreed with this, by the way, 4,000 if you want to buy it. But other people are thinking that because everybody else is selling them for a lot less, that Tesla will sell them around the market price,
How do you contend with the $1,000 price target and the fact that we may not be seeing a lot of revenue yet?
Oh, because I believe Gary Black. I believe that you should be able to put it on a spreadsheet. If you've got, 3,000 vehicles out there, or 4,000 or 5,000, whatever it is, by the end of the year in 3 cities. Now, and if you have regulations where you can go ahead and start moving it out across the country, then you put it on a spreadsheet and you go, is it going to be 300,000 by the end of the year? It's going to be 500,000 I'm talking about 2026. Is it going to be 1 million by the end of the year? Those numbers are easy to spread, and then you can spread them into 2027. At the same time, you can take the Optimus, and so if you have a price, then you can do some of that. But if you don't have a price, you can't. So it becomes harder. And then you've got some semi trucks and some other stuff happening too, which are going to be adding to the numbers. But anyway, that's how I come to my 1,000, is being able to put it on a spreadsheet and give some kind of a projection for the kind of profits that there will be by the end of 2026.
Okay. Yeah, so part of my 500, besides what we saw in the charts here on why constructively it looks like it could be, but obviously you need to have some. I'm not saying you have to have the profits and revenue, but you have to have some so people can model off, to your point. But to me, one of the big moments or big needle moving events will be when Tesla has not only more vehicles than Waymo out there, because that alone will be important for the narrative,
right?
But when we start to see, look, Waymo has whatever, however many vehicles, call it 1,000. And we see in San Fran that they're already disrupting Uber and Lyft's business.
Right.
So what happens when Tesla is in there disrupting Waymo, Uber, and Lyft's business?
Right.
Like once that starts to show materially, like Waymo has like 1,000 vehicles in total.
Right.
What happens when Tesla has 1,000 just in San Fran?
Right.
Right? Like what is like how like glaringly obvious is that? When do we start seeing the charts of Tesla robotaxi miles versus Ubers and Lyfts and Waymos? Like when do we start seeing those charts? And I think those will kind of be the moments that will really start to help the stock run. And I think we will start seeing some of that this year potentially. I mean, depending on how the rollout goes,
Right.
it's all going to depend on that. So
Yeah, and I think the other thing is that'll help a lot of the more sophisticated companies, even the Gary Blacks of the world, is if there's some way for us to get some kind of information from Tesla on the cost per mile, how they're coming up with that. Because, we got Kathy saying it'll be around 25 cents. I think that's very realistic. I think 35 cents would be the max. It could be as low as maybe down around 22 cents based on everything, every analysis I've seen and every analysis I've done of it myself. I can't get it above 35 cents a mile. But you've got a major financial house coming out today saying they thought that the cost per mile on the Cybercab will be $1.25 per mile. And I don't know how you get to $1.25. If it was $1.25, Uber and Lyft would be out of business because their cost of by putting a human in the seat, you couldn't possibly exist at $2 or $3 a mile.
yeah. 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 It's going to be interesting just to see how all that happens and how it rolls out. I don't know. It's exciting times.
It is an exciting time. So let's end the excitement for this hour by taking a look. So Tesla, as mentioned, ended up 0.1% in the regular hours and has gone up another whole 0.07% in the after hours. So it's really ripping. But maybe later tonight or tomorrow. We've got the Dow ending up 0.000% today. Now, quite frankly, on my little thing, it says down 0.000, but I'm an optimist. So therefore, I'm saying it was up 0.00 today. We've got the NASDAQ up, down 0.5 and the S&P down 0.27 during the course of the regular hour. Magnificent Seven all down. Microsoft managed a small increase along with Tesla, and the Cathie Woods were mixed. So they were not a good indicator today of what was happening with Cathie Wood type stocks because one was red, one was green, right down the line. What do you think? We haven't talked about that. Did we ever talk about whether you like my theory that the Cathie Woods stocks as a group can be kind of a way to analyze the entire category of disruptive stocks they're very, very bond cost sensitive.
That's interesting.
Yeah, that's why I keep them as a little grouping, and sometimes they go right in lockstep with Tesla. It's very interesting. When Tesla's not going the same as the rest of the market, then usually it's going the same as the Cathie Woods. It's just an interesting thing I noticed. Okay, bonds. Let's hear. Oh yeah, that was interesting. A lot of new people, a lot of people quitting government right now, and the Republicans are getting to put their own people in. That's good, right?
At the moment.
At the moment. All right, we got bonds down 5.2 basis points during the regular hours. Have been as much as 6, sitting at 4.424. We've talked that to death. Okay, here's the one though. What are we going to do about this? Does the president need to go out and start wringing some necks? Texas Intermediate up 3 bucks today. 60.
I actually think that's good
You think it's good. So when does it turn?
to go down.
Yeah.
I
70,
don't think you want. I
70.
don't think you want it to.
You
I
don't
think you want to stay in this range.
well, okay, but all right. So around 70 instead of around 60.
Around 70 is a very nice place for oil.
All right. Okay. I'm going to take that into my, I listen to everything you say, right? Okay.
Well, about time.
Natural gas, natural gas down a little bit, much better than it was a couple of days ago. Do you pay any attention to where natural gas should be or can be or no?
No, not the space I was in.
I know that the oil people like it to be above $3 because then it contributes to their profit. If it gets below $3, it doesn't contribute to their profit. When they're selling off their what do they call it? The offtake, what do they call the gas that they get for free off of their drilling or fracking or whatever it is? You don't know what I'm talking about?
No, I do. It's just not something I'm too familiar with.
Okay.
Yeah, nat gas in general, it's not my space.
Okay, all right. Gold up $30 today. We talked about it last night, and all of a sudden it got its legs.
Told you, you don't want to fade it.
never fade it. Silver has a little bit of profit taking today, down 72 cents. 0.72%. And copper down 2% today. Still though, really close to $5, which is very high for copper. And you got the dollar mixed and Bitcoin down 878, but still very strong, almost 109,000. And we do not have pre-market yet. We got another hour before the pre-market. But I'm not going to put everybody on pause this time and wait for 3 o'clock California time to tell you about the pre-market. You'll have to look it up yourself. I'm going to go ahead and publish this one early and give everybody more time to enjoy it. So you must have at least one last thought for the day.
Oh, I got nothing. Did you think I froze?
Yeah. For a minute, I was like, what happened to this guy? Yeah.
Yeah. Just enjoy the summer. How about that?
All right. He was really good for an hour. But you need to close. You need to have a strong close.
I glitched at the end.
All right, to all of you out there. Hey, as always, it's been great talking to you.